George Washington was the only president not to belong to a political party. In 1789, Washington had a large tumor removed from his left thigh. He was in critical condition for several days. It was very touch and go. In 1790, Washington came down with the flu and almost died again. Thomas Jefferson questioned whether Washington was physically up for the job of president. Just before Washington died, in 1799, he asked his aides not to bury him until no less than 3 days had passed. Washington had a fear of being buried alive. When Washington lived in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Washington paid $3,000 a year to rent a house from Robert Morris. At that time, the president was paid $25,000 in today's money. Thomas Jefferson was the very first president to shake hands with people. He also, as president, made 2 speeches during 8 years of the presidency, and he also started White House tours. John Quincy Adams, at the age of 64, decided to go into the House of Representatives. He was a great parliamentarian, knew the rules of the House. He also, as president, liked to skinny dip. And he would go out for a swim, and a young lady who was trying to get an interview with the president caught him one day when he was skinny dipping. It must have been a very interesting interview. He's also a person who had been president and later on went back to the House of Representatives. He was the only person ever to do that. In 1919, President Woodrow Wilson traveled across the United States to drum up support for his initiative for the League of Nations. Congress did not want to join the League of Nations, and President Woodrow Wilson was going across America stating his case to the American public. President Wilson thought the League of Nations was very important for the United States to join. The president traveled by train to Colorado. In Colorado, he became sick. He left Colorado and came back to the White House. And on October 2nd, 1919, President Woodrow Wilson had a stroke. No one in his cabinet knew exactly what was wrong with the president, nor was the public informed exactly what was wrong. Part of the 25th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States says if the majority of the cabinet deems the president unfit to carry out his or her duties of the office of the presidency, and 2/3 of Congress then agrees with the majority of the cabinet, the president can be removed. Presidents John Tyler, Millard Fillmore, and Andrew Johnson never had vice presidents. 4 presidents never made inaugural speeches: John Tyler, Millard Fillmore, Andrew Johnson, and Chester A. Arthur. 3 first ladies have died in office: Mrs. John Tyler, Mrs. Benjamin Harrison, and Mrs. Woodrow Wilson. William Henry Harrison, 10th President of the United States, was the first president to die in office. He made the longest inaugural speech in American history, a little under 2 hours long. He did not wear a coat, didn't wear a hat. It was a very cold and damp day in Washington. The president refused to change his clothes to attend a reception. President Harrison also liked to take walks at night in the damp cold. 3 weeks after he made his inaugural speech, which has been rated one of the worst in American history, he developed a cold. From that cold, he developed pneumonia. Then he later died.